Right, so Alfie Matthews joining me just before a training session up here at Eltham. We're just over a month into the season. How are you enjoying things so far?
As we spoke before, I'm loving it here. I think we couldn't have asked for a better start. Only one loss, so I think from analysing it from last season, in Dover's perspective, I think we're on the up at the moment.
Now, a lot of people were excited when you signed for the club, and I was one of them actually, because I've looked at your profile and what you've achieved so far in your career. What was it that attracted you to Dover Athletic in the first place?
It was definitely the conversation I had with Jake. It was more, he wanted a young squad, boys that aspire to get back into the league, and that is my end goal, to get back into full-time football, preferably in League 2 upwards, which personally I know I can get up to there. It's more, like we said, it's more of a game of opinions.
I mean, you've been playing football since the age of 5. Just take us through a scenic tour of your early career.
My earliest memory of playing football was for my local team called Beckham United, which we had quite a decent team. Still speak to a few of the boys. And then, I was there for quite a few years. I went on like a summer camp for West Ham, got interest from there. And then I signed for a club called Excel, which was full of like current Charlton players at the moment. So obviously that was nice. And then, as a West Ham fan, I've always wanted to play for my boyhood club, but then obviously it didn't work out. And both my cousins, Owen and Lewis Moore, they were both Arsenal at the time. Good family friend of mine, Greg Lincoln, was a coach there. So I think it was a no-brainer. I ended up signing there when I was 8, and so obviously I was training there from 6 till 8, and then 12 years later, I ended up leaving.
And of course, you were at Arsenal for a very long time. And just talk us through, your time at Arsenal, because you were rubbing shoulders with some household names there, weren't you?
Yeah, no, of course. I think, again, from probably, I would say the main part of my Arsenal career was probably from 11s to 14s. Like for them 3-4 seasons, I think we lost like 2 games, and they were both to City. So obviously we were possibly one of the best in the country. And like some household names in my team, obviously, close friend of mine, Saka. Obviously what he's doing now is out of this world. Possibly the best winger in the Premier League at the moment. So obviously seeing him up at the top obviously gives me a smile and gives my family a smile on their face. But obviously having worked with like the likes of like Reece Nelson and Emile Smith-Rowe, Joe and Chris Willock, it's nice.
I mean, obviously Saka, absolute superstar, and you must be really proud actually when you see him playing for England, watching him play week in, week out in the Premier League. What is it about a player like that makes it, because you've got great insight in players that do all the right things and get themselves in a position where they're literally playing in the Premier League and playing for their country?
I think, again, you have to be technically gifted and athletically to the top of your game. But it was weird. Like, he will tell anybody how he got his debut. There was 3 or 4 injuries at left-back position, and then he got his chance in the Europa League, and I mean, the rest is history.
What was he like, around the dressing room and as a friend?
I mean, he was a smart lad. Obviously, passed all these exams, unlike some of us. But I mean, as a lad, and he was a family person, which was nice for everyone. But spending 12 to 13 years of my life with him was, it's nice because obviously you all are quite close to each other. There was like 6 or 7 of us that have started from 6 all the way to 18, and he's the only one left at Arsenal at the moment now, which, again, like you said, I'm proud of him, and
What's your favourite anecdote, if you have one, of Saka?
Do you know what it was? I remember the Floodlit Cup final. I'd been out for like 6 weeks to 7 weeks with my broken arm, and I come back, it was my first game in the final, and he set me up, and it was just everyone come together. That's probably one of my best moments with him. Or both of us making our England debut at the same time was probably a good thing. Me, him, and a player called Ben Cottrell, us 3 obviously started together from 6 to 18, and we all made our debut against Romania, which was a good one.
I mean, playing for England, what a proud moment that must have been. Just tell us, what that was like, and, just tell us your journey with the England underage groups.
So I went to quite a few like England camps, like where they just obviously look at a few players. And then, I remember just waking up from my sleep one day, and then my dad just got an email and just didn't tell me at all, made me go to school, made me go to training. And then later on the way back home, he stopped me off and said, showed me the email and it said I've been selected to a double header against Romania, and I thought he was joking around because I thought not many people ever play for their country, let alone make a competitive start. So that was a real proud achievement of mine.
So of course you went through all the Arsenal age groups, and actually you got your scholarship when you were 13, didn't you?
Yeah. So again, it was a big thing for me and the family. Especially, I always mention my family because they've all had to make sacrifices for me. Especially my sisters and my dad, and my stepmom Hayley. So obviously it was a big thing for all of us. But yeah, it was just it was a no-brainer really. Getting my pre-scholar was a massive thing for me and my family. But yeah, it was a hard decision because we did have other Premier League clubs interested at the time, but our agents and close family friends of ours said, how good of a story would it be from starting from the bottom, making it all the way to the top?
Of course, when you signed your scholarship, I think Arsene Wenger was still around, just about, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And he sort of, he really took that club to a different level, didn't he? Just tell us about the mentality at Arsenal.
Yeah, I think especially at Hayland, where the academy trained, it was going through that stage of being quite an old building, quite Arsene Wenger, and then obviously when Unai Emery come in, it all changed. Brand new buildings. I think that's what the club needed at the time. But for me personally, I was never looking at the first team. Again, I was only still a boy at the time. But obviously working with some of the top coaches like Thierry Henry, Freddie Ljungberg was my manager for 2 seasons and possibly one of my favourite managers to date, where I feel like my best managers that I've worked under are players that have played at any sort of level. And again, going back to like Jake, that's why I feel like Jake's helps me a lot because he understands a lot.
Yeah, Freddie Ljungberg, I mean, just tell us a little bit about him and how he managed you and what he did for you on a personal level.
I think he was a manager, but he was also like a friend / teammate, because obviously he's been there and done it. I mean, one of possibly the greatest Premier League side, invincible sides, being a big part in that. But yeah, he just helped me play my game, understand what football is, as much as it is about winning, entertaining people, and being more of not as a team, as more as a family. And I think that's where we went on that massive run of not losing games and just basically winning everything we played in.
Of course, Unai Emery took over. You actually met him a number of times, didn't you? Just tell us about him.
Yeah, I think, again, he was going through that stage of Arsene Wenger had left. Can another manager take over and do what he done? Obviously at Arsenal, possibly didn't do what people done, but obviously now at Aston Villa he's smashing it. But yeah, I mean, he spoke to not me just personally, but obviously to our whole under-18s team about saying aspirations of getting to the first team. We're not that far off of it, and also integrated a lot of us into the training. Like when it was like the day before a game, we would be like the Chelsea, or we would be the Man City playing out from the back. So seeing how a first team manager at Premier League level works this close was a good insight and what I was hoping to become.
And of course, towards the end of your time at Arsenal, Mikel Arteta took over. Just tell us, what he was like to work for, and you spoke to him a number of times as well.
Yeah, so obviously Mikel, at the start had Freddie Ljungberg as his backroom staff. So obviously, for me personally, I knew how much Freddie meant to me as a coach. So for him to be able to personally pull me over and let me enjoy my training with the first team was a big thing. But yeah, Mikel, again, possibly at one of the biggest clubs in the world at Man City, done everything what you can win, and then he's obviously come over and he gave me that insight of, again, playing with freedom, but also it's very hard to explain when you're not on the pitch, but the details that he was showing was, you never would have really looked at football like that, and that's kind of taught me a lot as well.
And looking through your photo memories, a photo of you and David Beckham popped up, and that was actually from your time at Arsenal, wasn't it?
Yeah, so all 3 of his boys, Brooklyn, Cruz and Romeo, they were all at Arsenal. Brooklyn was in my cousin's age group and Romeo was a year below me, so again, who doesn't want a picture with David Beckham? So I had to ask. So again, it's something to look back on because, again, possibly one of England's greatest ever players, what he's done at the clubs he's played for, I mean, it was nice seeing him all the time because he was there every single session. But I think he just wanted to be a dad watching his boys play football, which was nice.
Yeah. Did you, Matt, ever speak to him about football at all? Or I suppose it's hard to do that.
Yeah, I mean, it is hard. Like, don't get me wrong, I had so many questions to ask him, like what was going through his mind in Greece game, like, because I remember watching games like this, like back on YouTube and stuff, but not really. I mean, he was just like my dad when I saw him at Arsenal. He was just more sitting there. Don't get me wrong, he had his security around him, but I mean, he's there watching his boys enjoy their football.
Yeah. And what were they like, his boys?
Yeah, they were all quite down to earth, to be fair, which is, I was quite shocked at the start, because if David Beckham was my dad and you're turning up in certain cars, it's a bit like, it can be quite a big thing for you. But no, they were all decent footballers. Obviously, Romeo was at Brentford B for quite a few years. But yeah, unfortunately, all of them don't play football anymore, but again, that's football for you.
Of course, your time at Arsenal came to an end. You got released, didn't you? Just tell us the story behind that. And that must have been gutting for you because it was a big part of your life.
Yeah, so there was a contract on the table, but there was no guarantees at all. And I think for me at that point in my career, I needed to start pushing. But yeah, it was just hard for me, obviously, to leave. At the start, I think I was ready to leave, but when I'd left the office and agreed that it is done, I did break down a little bit, because I mean, I was at Arsenal for 12 years, so for me it was my life.
But of course, football's full of disappointments, and it was very important that you bounced back, and you ended up going to Crystal Palace. Just tell us, what happened after you left Arsenal from and then going to Palace.
Yeah, so obviously when I left Arsenal, my time was cut quite short, to be fair, because I was with the first team at the time towards the end of the season, and Arsenal got a few players had COVID. So then I didn't really get to say my proper goodbyes until the following pre-season, when I turned up and said my goodbyes and collected all my stuff. But yeah, I had a contract offer from a Serie A club in Italy, which again I've always wanted to play in Italy.
Which club was that?
A team called Hellas Verona. So obviously we all started learning Italian, which was good. But then obviously
come on, tell us what can you say in Italian?
Ciao, that's about it now. Yeah.
But so that unfortunately didn't happen in the end. Just explain why.
Yeah, obviously, like everyone obviously knows, like COVID in Italy was the worst in Europe, so that didn't properly materialise. I couldn't wait to go back to football, and obviously in the Premier League, obviously opened up quite quick. And then Crystal Palace come along, and a club with such like long history, it's quite hard to like turn a club like that down. And yeah, that was an unbelievable time at Crystal Palace. We obviously won the PL2 Division 2 to get promoted. My first season, obviously worked with some players like Wilfried Zaha, Gary Cahill, Jack Butland. So to see players who have played at the top of the game for many years, day in, day out, as you're so close to them every day, it was a good feeling.
And of course, Roy Hodgson was manager, I think, when you went in there. What was he like? He
was completely different to what I expected him to be. I thought he was going to be quite loud and shouty, but he's very quite left it to his assistant manager at the time, who was Ray Lewington. Obviously quite left it to him. But yeah, he was, ex-England manager. It's not every day you get to work with someone like that. So yeah, it was good to work with him. He was going through that stage of Crystal Palace building a new training facility, so it was a bit up and down. But again, I was in the changing room with the first team for a good 4 or 5 months. So that was a massive thing for me as well. Like sitting down, having breakfast, lunch and dinner with these international players. Gary Cahill won the Champions League. So sitting with players like this day in, day out for a good 4 or 5 months was unbelievable.
Did you pick their brains or speak to them about stuff, or did you anything that you learned from them when you were there?
I think it was different. Like with Zaha, he was very. He wanted to do what he wanted to do. He knew what he wanted to get out of training. But then you've got players like James McArthur, who was club captain at the time, and he was very. He didn't care if he was 16 years old or 36 years old. He would treat the exact same, which I now take here because I've always wanted to be that leader and talk to people, which I'm trying to implement into my game now. And obviously Gary Cahill, he kind of took me under his wing a little bit. Him and a player called Max Meyer, who moved on. They just helped me a lot, like quite shy 19, 20-year-old trying to mix in with a first team. It was like, come sit on our table, right, we're talking, making me stand up and singing in front of everyone. So it was nice to get that confidence up by just throwing me under the bus a little bit.
I've got to ask you, what did you have to sing? Was it an initiation song?
Yeah, it was an initiation song. It was my first time like training with him. I remember I sang a song, Mario, Let Me Love You. Quite easy, so I just wanted to do that one.
Brilliant. And of course, your time at Palace came to an end as well. Just talk us through that.
Yeah, I thought I'd done enough to get another contract, in my opinion. I got PL2 Player of the Month, November, December, and then obviously from January onwards, I was with the first team basically every day. It was me and two other boys. So yeah, that was obviously quite hard. And then, yeah, obviously they ended up releasing me, which I'm very, very confused on why. Still don't have any answers to this day, but football is a game of opinions. I've always said that.
Yeah, it must be hard because you say you've had that upbringing at Arsenal. You then you almost went to Italy, Palace take you on, and then to not have any real explanation, that must be so disappointing.
Yeah, it was, because obviously my dad don't see. Again, my dad's quite close to me, so obviously you don't see day to day what's happening, and obviously he's asking questions, like agents are asking questions. But when I'm getting told from the coaches, like, you're doing very well. And in all of our like our end of season reviews, like saying like quite a crucial player to obviously getting promoted, and then not being offered a contract, you start thinking, is it the upper hierarchy? Is it my manager? Is it something I've done on or off the pitch? But again, no answers. But like I said, football is football. I've moved on and I'm here now.
How was that? How did you feel when you went into non-league football? Because of course that's a mile away from those superstars that you were rubbing shoulders with.
I think, obviously, when I first signed for Welling, there was like 12 games left of the season, and I thought, okay, like men's football. Obviously, I did turn up and I thought, wow, like the facilities are a lot different. You don't get given everything, like your towels, your socks, and obviously it was a big shock for me. But I think I handled it quite well. Obviously, done very well in my last 11 games. Helped them stay up. We was in a relegation battle. Unfortunately, Welling stayed up and Billericay went down at the time. And then obviously nothing materialised of that. I didn't see myself staying at a club like Welling. I really enjoyed my time and I'll always appreciate for what they've done to me. Then I ended up signing for Braintree, which one of my happiest times in football at the moment, like to this day. And that's why I think Braintree will always hold a special place in my heart. Always will. I love the club to bits. I had a season of my life as well there, which was big benefit to me as well.
Of course, at Hemel, that was frustrating for you at Hemel, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, Hemel is a club with a great fan base. Again, fans, without them, I probably would have struggled a lot. The boys were unbelievable. I just think we went through a stage of 3 managers in the space of like 2 months. Upper hierarchy was a bit of a challenge, going for a challenging stage, which, yeah, whatever happened and whatever people will say, I know my side of the story and obviously they know theirs. But again, I'll never down talk a club or a chairman or a manager. Again, I've made some friends for life at that club. But yeah, obviously it just didn't work out.
Now the bit that everyone wants to talk about is Dover Athletic, of course. You signed for the club. This is a team this club that's had a really difficult few years. 2 relegations in 3 seasons, a little bit on its knees really. But that's kind of been reversed already. It's been a cracking start to the season, and there's a good atmosphere at the club.
I mean, like I said at the start, look at the start we've had. I mean, it's unbelievable to think where we are now to where the club was 3-4 months ago is chalk and cheese. Like, the club is going in the upper direction, and I wouldn't say it's all down to the players. Definitely say Jim, Mike and Jake, especially Jake, with the recruitment he's done. So yeah, I think it's a great start.
And you look at Jake actually. I mean, first of all, he loves the club because he's a Dover grammar boy. So he went to school in Dover. He's from the town. He gets the fans. He's a supporter himself. And of course, he's worked under some really good managers. I mean, John Steele. He worked for John Steele, and he also was assistant to Chris Kinnear. Again,
I think that's one of the best things, having a boyhood club and you're managing that club. I think it means a little bit more to you obviously I know we've got a few Dover boys who have grew up with like Wilco, Nick Hadge, Baps, Ponty, so, and obviously like Youngie and Matty, I don't want to leave out the younger boys. But yeah, I just think what he's created, not just on the pitch but also off the pitch, is probably the happiest I've been in my football since leaving Arsenal, which is credit to every single one of the boys. I think what we've achieved so far is good, but it's nothing at the moment. We've still got a long, long season.
Yeah, I mean, we look at the league table, obviously fantastic, man. It's great to see Dover second. But it's a form table at the moment after 6 games, isn't it?
100%.
And we mustn't get carried away. But actually, we're scoring goals for fun, which is really, I mean, fans love to see goals, and we're not disappointed on that front, are we?
No, 100%. And I think the best thing about it, yes, obviously, fair play to Nick Hadge and Ruben, both on first and second top goal scorer in the league, and again, great lads off the pitch. Especially Nick, I'm quite close with him and Baps, so it's nice obviously having that little trio on the pitch also helps off the pitch as well. But yeah, like, again, I know we are second, and I know people are saying it's only the start of the season, but the way I look at it, the teams we've played are all in the top half of the table. And you've got a team like, for instance, Lewis, all played teams in the bottom half of the table, so you can take it how you want, but I feel like the goals, they will always come. Like Jake said in his interview the other day on the paper, it started from pre-season. Obviously I wasn't here during pre-season, but yeah, I know the boys are scoring goals for fun and everyone's chipping in with goals.
Yeah, and what I like about this team is its ability to bounce back. I mean, the Folkestone game, you know, I thought we were very unlucky actually on the night. I thought a draw would have been a fairer result, but we bounced back, won the next one. And then, of course, the Sittingbourne one was so disappointing. 2 very disappointing performances, really. But to then bounce back and beat Dartford in the manner we did, I think that shows a lot about the character of the squad.
Yeah, I think, which I'm quite surprised because the average age is around 22, 23. So our oldest head is Mitch Walker, which obviously everyone loves Mitch, who doesn't? So obviously having Mitch as club captain has helped a lot because he's obviously been here before. He knows what it means to play for Dover. But yeah, I think the Folkestone game was difficult. Obviously a game I would have loved to play in front of all the fans. Yeah. But yeah, obviously we had 10 men, it was disappointing, but again, we bounced back, won straight away again. And then, yeah, the Sittingbourne game,
I mean, you were particularly unlucky.
Yeah, I think the Sittingbourne game, the first game obviously didn't start at the start, but obviously I come on, made an impact. And somehow Mitch has scored as well, so Mitch scoring before me is...
Does he keep banging on about it?
To be fair, he doesn't. I think Mitch's...
I would if I was him, but...
Mitch's head's quite screwed on. I think Mitch is all for the 3 points. You can already see that. And I think that's a great captain. But obviously the second Sittingbourne game, I think we were very poor in the first half. But in the second half, I mean... Personally, I've hit the crossbar twice, hit the post once.
Yeah.
Just weren't.
And Ruben's very just a whisker.
Ruben right at the end of the first half, obviously hit the post, so obviously it's hard. But
it kind of needed that moment, didn't it? It was an awful game really to watch. It was abysmal to watch as a fan. But I just felt if we had scored, I think we could have then kicked on, and we just
100%. I feel like when you can see, like we've been down and out. For instance, Horsham, we were down and out, and then we somehow brought it back and won. I think that's what this team is very, very good at. We'll always get more chances, like Gaffer always says to us. Even if there's 10 minutes left, don't start lumping it long. Don't everyone squeeze up, another chance will come. After that one, another chance will come. Which you can see after, against Dartford, smashing them 5-1. In a manner of where, in my opinion, we could have scored another 3 or 4 more, which just shows how many chances we are creating.
Well, we've got 8 against Potter Spa, so are we trying to get 9 at some point? You know, that'd be nice, wouldn't it? But I think you learn a lot about a team when they lose, actually. And that Sittingbourne game, as I say, was abysmal, and it wasn't the greatest performance. But I went into the bar afterwards, and I was watching the players, yourself included, and I was really encouraged when I left, even though disappointed, because I could see that the players were hurting. I could see players like yourself. You were deep in fault. You weren't happy with what happened. And you know, Ruben, you know, he was seething at one point. You know, I like that, and it shows that players care, and then to bounce back in the manner you did.
Yeah, I think whatever anybody has said after the Sittingbourne game, fans-wise, like I understand the frustration, but no one means to play poorly. No one means to. Everyone's going to have a bad game this season, especially me. I'm going to have 2 or 3 stinkers this season. I already know it, but again, it's whether that's what I like about Jake. Jake's put a trust in players. Like some boys, they know they haven't performed so well on a certain game, but they still start the next game to prove they're wrong. Not, right, see you later, mate. I think if everyone sticks behind the team this season, I feel like, I don't want to jinx it, but we've got such a good team, and I think big things can happen this season.
I agree with you, and the fans have actually been fantastic this season. They really have, and I know you've enjoyed playing in front of them. And the Sittingbourne game, there was obviously some disappointment, and I suppose that's really a carryover from the previous few seasons. So many disappointments, another one, but this is a new team, a young team, and it's a team that cares and has got a lot of talent. And if you get the support from the fans, I feel, it could be it creates a happy environment, and you can kick on.
100%. I think you can see, like, even look at the way the boys are celebrating after each goal against Dartford. It means, obviously, we got told before it's been 24 games since we last obviously won a Kent derby. So for me, it was more of that extra motivation, that extra 2-3%, which I think we needed. And again, I think Mike and Jake have been top for that as well. And I don't think the occasion got to us boys. Yes, they had like a little spell where we was under the cosh, but again, fair play to JT, Luca and Mitch, obviously keeping us in it big time. But yeah, like we said, this team will score goals.
Now, you travel quite a distance, I understand. You live on, is it the Norfolk border or something? Is that right?
So I'm not far from Ipswich. Yeah.
Wow. So, that's a lot of dedication. How long does it take you to get down to Dover for matches?
From Dover on a match day, probably like 2 hours, 45 minutes.
Ouch. Yeah.
Yeah, so, but again, for me, this is the reason why Science is such a massive club, like with the facilities we've got, with the history. Obviously, in 4 years ago, we were so close to getting into League Two. So you can't have just plummeted all this way because of the club. We can obviously get back up. That's obviously my ambition, obviously, to get back up. But hopefully, we can do it with Dover.
Yeah, and of course, the money's not there that it was before. The Jim and Sally can't quite put as much in, but they're still putting in a significant amount, by the way.
Yeah.
But if fans come to the games, that creates more revenue, and of course, then if you're a little bit short, need a couple of players just to bolster it, get you across the line when you've got injuries. We can go and do it, can't we?
100%. I think the benefit of obviously having such a young squad, obviously we recover quite quick compared to the players that are in their later stage of their career. But yeah, I feel like, again, you can obviously see, like, with previous player Jaden obviously left. But yeah, Jake's obviously put his trust in other players and said, I don't really need to bring anyone in. I've got the team I wanted, which I think is a great decision by him, because having that changing room, having a good changer, in my opinion, builds that outside.
And how have you found the level? I mean, obviously you've played at a higher level than this. I mean, is it surprisingly good, or is it as you expected it to be?
I don't really know, because obviously I find it quite different. I take each game by each game. I know it's quite
cliche
to say, yeah, but for me, I just look at my opponents, who I'm playing next. But I think that, the level has been surprisingly better than I expected. But again, money speaks. When you've got players like one of my favourite players, Freddie Ljungberg, in this level, when you see players like him at this level, you obviously know money speaks. But again, money is money, and I feel like with the ability this team's got, again, I think we're doing very well.
And just finally, I mean, you've been on an incredible journey so far, and hopefully many, many, many years to go. But what would you like to achieve? I mean, I know you would love to become professional again, wouldn't you?
Not in an arrogant way. I know I'll get back into the league. It's just I need that manager, like what Jake and Mike have done, to put their arm around me and give me that freedom to an extent, because I know Jake likes that, to an extent, to play my game. And I feel like this is what this club's done for me so far, and I think the fans and the club have kind of seen what I can do.